Turn up the volume. Turn the volume up really, really loud. Mic check. 1, 2, 1, 2. Welcome back to SoFlo TV again, everybody. It's your host with the most. Listen to this and listen closely. All right. I'm going to give you the details as I gathered the details. Now, check this out. I want to drag your memory back. And for those of you who don't know, this will just be something you're just finding out. But a while ago in Jamaica, there was a Kingston College student, 17 years old, Kajil Mace. He was traveling in the back of a taxi. He called the taxi get him a ride, and he was going about his business, whether it was going to school or from school, right? And it was a rainy day, and they were driving. And this taxi he was driving in collided with the back of a X6 BMW motor vehicle. The X6 BMW motor vehicle stopped. Remember, the taxi is right behind it. So the X6 BMW motor vehicle stopped. The person driving the X6 got out of the vehicle, pulled out a gun, and fired a few bullets into the taxi. One of those bullets went through the windshield and into the back seat where the 17-year-old Kajil Mace was sitting, just taking a taxi ride, and hit him in the head, and he died. That became known in Jamaica as the X6 murder trial. Matter of fact, it became known as the X6 trial. There was no murder put in the trial. It was known as the X6 trial. Okay? Of that X6 trial, let me start out by saying this to you. Let me pull you into some things. The cost of a BMW X6 is between 60 and 75,000 US dollars. Now you're going to say to yourself, but God, who have so much money that in Jamaica? No need to say, or needless to say, this is a very wealthy person, right? So it's understood now that the taxi in which Kajil Mace was traveling in collided with the rear bumper of a wealthy individual. All right. So let's revisit this X6 trial now, please. And rest in peace to Kajil Mace. Now, the purpose of this video is to show that if Vybz Kartel was not Vybz Kartel, he would have been free a long time ago. At the same time, it is also to show people, they do this in a court of law all the time. This is called cross-referencing. Okay? I've done it before with the Kentucky Kid case, and it was the same prosecutor on the Kentucky Kid case, and I'm doing it again with the X6 trial in comparison to the Vybz Kartel appeal. All right. In the end of this trial, the person known as Patrick Powell was sentenced to 9 months for disobeying the order of Judge Smith Vaughn to hand over his Glock pistol in a murder investigation where he was the primary accused. Now you can imagine you having so much authority that the judge orders you to hand over your firearm for ballistic testing, and you said nope, not handing it over. And for that, he was given 9 months in jail. He was acquitted of murder. He was acquitted of shooting with intent. Can you imagine that? And he was acquitted after the prosecution, which was led by Paula Llewellyn and her office, they decided that they did not want to offer any more evidence in the case. just let it lay where it may. Now, mind you, people, the Department of Public Prosecution, they could have pushed this heavily. Who owns this X6? Was the vehicle reported stolen, right? The vehicle not only stopped and the person got out and fired shots into the taxi, killing this 17-year-old. The person got back into the X6 and drove away, fleeing the scene. The taxi driver reversed, backed up, and tried to drive away, running away from gunshots with a dying 17-year-old in the vehicle. And the Department of Public Prosecution, led by Paula Llewellyn, stood up there in court and said, well, we don't have any more, no more evidence to submit, so we're going to end it right here. And based on that, the person who was thought to be the shooter and driver of the X6 was acquitted. Now, here's the thing. His charges were murder, shooting with intent, illegal possession of a firearm, illegal possession of ammunition, failure to produce a firearm for inspection, and he beat all those charges. I have to ask myself, do you think that any dancehall artist or any ghetto youth could have beaten all those charges? It begs to answer the question, well, who is this man? And why did Jamaica media not tell us who this man was? Because surely every time somebody does something, you see it in Jamaica. You know what they do for a living. A carpenter by the name of Rowan Smith, age 42, from the district of Columbus Vine in Westmoreland, was gunned down. They give description of people down to their employment, right? And if they pass away, they will say he was survived by a wife and 2 children, Teresa Brown and Ron Brown, a boy and a girl, and so on and so forth. In the Patrick Powell instance, they did not give not one iota of who this man that is so wealthy that he can own multiple vehicles on the island, and one of them is just one of his throwaway vehicles, is worth over $100 million. Surely people would want to know, well, who is he? Where did he make his millions from? Is he even a Jamaican? But the news media, the Gleaner, the Star, TVJ, CVM, you name it, all of them went quiet about who this individual was. They were very careful to not even mention his name until later on. Not to mention the injustice from the justice system, dragging this out for almost 8 years from the day it happened to the time it went to trial. Now, within that 8 years, people had disappeared who were witnesses. People had went silent. People came in 8 years later to say, I don't remember nothing, and I'm sure I never said nothing like that. Let me tell you all the mumbo jumbos that went on in this trial, okay? So, I am learning that Mr. Powell has a nickname, and the nickname is Nigga Charlie. If you want to read up some more on that, just Google Patrick Powell, Nigga Charlie, Nigga. Put it in there, Patrick Powell, Nigga Charlie, and see what comes up. It's apparent that this Patrick Powell has ties to top politicians, top policemen, high-ranking politicians, and it is said that he's actually a Canadian citizen with heavy ties to the entertainment industry. why the media in Jamaica did not mention details of who Mr. Powell is, how he makes his millions, his houses, his cars, how many of them he has on the island, his kids, his business or businesses. Did you know that a raid was conducted on a senior police official's house in connection with the Kajil Mays shooting? Who was this senior police official? Come on now, can you tell me the media skipped over all that? Who was this senior police official? If a senior police official house is raided in the midst of a shooting investigation where a 17-year-old had lost his life, surely the media would have ran to it. If Vybz Kartel house was raided, if Mavado house was raided, if any of the entertainers' house was raided or any normal citizen house was raided in connection to a shooting that resulted in a murder, in a death of a 17-year-old, they would have put that on front page. They did not mention that to the public. Yes, a raid was conducted on a senior police official's house. What were they looking for in this raid? A little bird pitched on our shoulder and told us that Mr. Powell and his heavy connections with these senior police officials is what led to this raid. And this particular senior police official was thought to be hiding evidence. Now, for those of you who don't know, Patrick Powell is described as a real estate developer. And like I said before, he is linked to other major local figures of the criminal underworld with deep connections to senior members of the JCF Jamaica Constabulary Force. He is said to have real estate in several posh St. Andrew communities, including Ligony and Norbrook. Also said to own development along Red Hills Road and other multi-billion-dollar properties in Constant Spring area and St. Andrew. He also owns a private jet. This, for me, is information that is allegedly. Because, of course, this is stuff that I myself, SoFlo TV, has not proven. And I would hate for this man to be sitting somewhere saying, "Wanna come listen to that boy I talk about me, you know? You never see me with a private jet." Eh? All these things he's saying I own. People, I want you to read AnniePaul.net. AnniePaul, AnniePaul.net. Active voice. Just Google it. And the article will pop up and you can read through the article. Alright? Now, Mr. Powell's gun was never reported missing or stolen. His whole file disappeared from the FLA, Firearm Licensing Authority. I'm trying to show you how many shifts were made, how many changes were made to accommodate your whole file missing from FLA. 3 guns, a .38 revolver, a 9mm Glock, which license was renewed 4 months before the Kajil Mays shooting. The 9mm Glock. They even came up with a story about gun license being mixed up, and one of his guns, they issued 2 licenses for it. So they were saying that Police Inspector Patricia Powell and Mr. Powell had gotten license for the same firearm. and Patricia Powell was in possession of her firearm, so he could not be in possession with that firearm. "17-year-old Kingston College youth Kajil Mace. The blunder of the Jamaican justice system, how they strung this out from 2011, to 2018. And I will never forget that taxi driver. You see, that taxi driver, I would actually want to know where he is at today. Because I believe he was shaken. He was visibly shaken, and I believe that he either got threatened or he got paid off. Or he got threatened and paid off. This is Jamaica we're talking about. You're a taxi driver. One of my car them costs over $100 million. I definitely have enough money that I can pay you off to make sure that I don't go to prison. You understand? Especially if they gave me from 2011 to 2018 to get to all the witnesses, especially you, because you're the main one. Now here the frig up is what I call it. The frig up. And legal experts are saying the case collapsed because of Wayne Wright, the taxi driver. You know why? Because when the incident first happened, it's alleged that this taxi driver gave a testimony to the police, JCF. Ironically, listen to this. Ironically, the testimony was verbal and it was not recorded. Now you just have a shooting incident where a man alighted from a car, jumped out in the middle of the street and bust gunshot through your taxi. You had to reverse a driveway and killed a passenger who was 17 years old in the backseat of your vehicle. And you went to the police and gave a testimony, gave evidence, gave a description of what took place. And the police so happened to not have recorded it. Imagine that, huh? Anyhow, this taxi driver, this was 2011. By the time 2018 came around, this taxi driver came back to say this. Me? I never gave them I never gave them I never tell them anything like that. Did you or did you not say that you saw Mr. Powell come out of the vehicle, raise up and fire that weapon? The taxi driver says, no, I never said that. Matter of fact, the police wanted me to say that because they said, I hear them talking, say, them want get the man there, the big man. And when I find out who the big man is, it was Mr. Powell. So they was trying to really set him up. This is the taxi driver. This is what he came back to say after giving a testimony. But of course, the police who he gave the testimony to was not held accountable either. Right? Wayne Wright, the taxi driver, he gave the police info. 2 statements he made. Twice he went in there and gave statements. And conveniently, none of it was digitally recorded. Years later, he was able to deny that he ever gave any statement to the police. And he said he never saw Powell with any gun. He also denied telling the police that he previously knew Kajil Mace. Now remember, I know a taxi driver this, and a taxi driver run them regular route, and you regularly use their service, but yet they're able to say, me don't know him. I don't remember him. I don't know him. Don't remember seeing him. Could it so be that the police made sure also that that recording disappeared, giving room for the taxi driver to say, me not have nothing to do with this, and I'm sure I never gave you any statements They made that disappear, just like how the FLA made the firearm paperwork disappear. So he was able to tell them, I'm not turning over no gun. I think my safe at my house was compromised. I think somebody broke into the house and broke into the safe. And all they could say was, wow, conveniently. So you live in a big mansion up top, and you come home and your safe is broken into, your gun's missing, you never told anybody, never made a report, anything. Well, how Paula Llewellyn and her crew took it as, well, he has an alibi. It is for us to prove that that never happened. And how can we? Right? I say all that to say this. Watch how the justice system operates when it's about justice. And then watch how they operate when it's about freeing one of their own. Whether it's an associate, a close associate, a relative, a friend, somebody with a whole heap of money, power, and influence, somebody that's from their circle that rub elbows with them, etc., etc. And then compare it to the Vybz Kartel case and what they call circumstantial evidence that is still strong enough for this man to get a life sentence. I want you to remember, there was so much evidence to look at in the Kajil Mays case. How that BMW X6 ended up hiding in somebody's garage where it was discovered, which was a friend of the owner, who owns a body shop, and was working on making the vehicle look like it never got into an accident, and how they denied that it was that vehicle that was in an accident, then it was proven that it was, and how this man walked away acquitted because the Department of Public Prosecution, led by Paula Llewellyn, said they will not offer any further evidence. The exact same thing they did in the Kentucky Kid case, when Kentucky Kid's lawyer told him, put up some cameras in your house and see if you can catch them. Because he kept telling his lawyer, listen, they even come into my house, you know. I remember when they beat Kentucky Kid until he started passing blood in the toilet. And all that was caught on camera, him getting beating and his wife, who was pregnant at the time, getting beatings as well. And you could clearly see the face of these police officers. Yet, these men walked away. So when you ask me, so Flo, you say you're a man that always talk about the killings in Jamaica and you say you want justice, but then you defend somebody like Vybz Kartel. It's because it's the same intelligence that I'm using, and I see through the BS. Wanting justice does not mean that you go pin something on somebody else. Wanting justice does not mean that you put somebody in prison without proving that they did it. I'm going to close this video by asking you a couple of questions. One, they said that Lizard is dead. So it is up to them to prove that Lizard is dead. Where is the proof that Lizard is dead? The only thing that has been proven is that Lizard is not around. So we're looking for someone that disappeared. We're not looking for someone that was murdered, bludgeoned to death, as they said. Right? And in that instant, also, a voice note. You know, I just took a class here in Florida where, in order to get your licensed firearm concealed carry permit renewed, I went and freshened up on one of these classes. And it struck me when the instructor said, so You're in your house in the middle of the night. You see somebody moving in your backyard. You have your licensed firearm, so you run out there to see who it is, right? You fire 2 shots and you shoot this person that's running through your backyard in the middle of the night. Will you go to jail or not in the state of Florida? And I said, no, you're not going to go to jail because they're in your backyard in the middle of the night. He said, yes, you will go to jail because they were not posing a threat to you. They were passing through your backyard. They were in your backyard. They were not coming at you. So I say that to say this. Even in a voice note, I can say all day, because the instructor also said that. Even if your neighbor, SoFlo, even if your neighbor comes over while you're taking the groceries out the car and said, hey, you know what? I don't like you because you let your dog out and your dog piss and poop on my lawn every damn day. I hate you so much, I want to kill you right now. Your neighbor has walked across your lawn to meet you at your car trunk while you're taking your groceries out. And this was what was said to you. Can you pull your licensed firearm and use it and it's justified? And the answer is no. So what I'm saying is legalities. You can talk all day. Hey boy, me I kill you, you know. Hey dog, me murder the boy, you know. Hey, me kill the boy there, you know. Or I'm going to kill this boy, you know. Yo, that dead already, trust me. Anytime I catch it, that dead already. Figure of speech. The fact remains. Talk is just talk. There needs to be some kind of proof. Even if there is no body, some other kind of proof. DNA somewhere. I'm going to leave this one right here. I'm going to say this. Rest in peace, Kajal Mace. The world gets to see again that Jamaica's justice system is something else. I'm out. Peace.